Hi and welcome to BizTech2 TV. This week we travel straight to the heart of Karnataka to check out the e-governance initiative by the Karnataka government. In a country like ours where the government often kicks off large-scale initiatives, it has been seen that corruption and bureaucracy seeps into all levels in the system. This was one of the issues that the Karnataka government was facing. But one major issue was lack of transparency. Thus, to tackle these issues and enable transparency in the system, Government of Karnataka, through its e-governance implementation, has tried to make a difference.
Any e-governance initiative, the first and the only thing that we look at through technology, how do we serve the last person in the queue? It's very easy to serve the first few persons in the queue, but how do we serve the last person in the queue? Using ICT.
E-governance was the driving force which led to various initiatives to enable transparency and better governance by the government of Karnataka. One of such initiatives was e-Procurement.
Procurement was identified as one of the key areas, especially because that is one area which has where the government is spending. So government spent, and how to best monitor the spend, how to best manage the spend.
With regard to e-procurement, some of the important issues that we placed on the table were that people were used to a certain culture in terms of manual tendering. They were used to a certain culture with regard to the kind of time gap involved between placing an indent, procuring of goods. Then they were also used to certain number of tenders being received for every tender that was invited. Also with regard to the payment infrastructure. Everything was manual. One had to submit a check or a demand draft or in terms of cash to be deposited in the treasury. Submission of manual bids, some of the bid documents ran into hundreds of pages. Technical bids in one huge envelope, financial bids in another huge envelope. Comparing the two, it took, practically a month and a half to 2 months' time comparing the bids received from the bidders.
With a clear agenda in mind, the government of Karnataka started its search for a technology partner which could cater to its very specific and unique needs.
One of the primary requirements for this type of tendering situation was that the e-procurement system should be a robust platform, number one. Number two, it should scale seamlessly because the government tenders keep getting added as and when new projects and new works come up in that space in various departments. Number three is it should be seamless as far as the user is concerned, and it should be fault tolerant in the sense that there shouldn't be breakdowns while the tendering process is on. Number four is there were specific modules which were required. For example, how do you do an auction? How do you do cataloging? Those were some of the requirements which had to be online.
The government of Karnataka opened its doors to not just implementations in the country but around the world as well. Through the help of external consulting agencies, a complete roadmap was charted and a vendor was zeroed down upon. But little did the government know that the answer to its specific problem was in a model which was unique too.
This is a managed service. It will be managed by the vendor. So the vendor must have the know-how of putting the entire application in position to the satisfaction of every department. You see, the tendering requirement of Department A is not the same as the tendering requirement of Department B. You need to do a lot of customization. You need to do a lot of tailoring. You need to do a lot of customization to meet the tendering requirement of every department. We have 43 government departments in Karnataka state. The requirement of each one of these 43 departments is different in one way or the other.
We found a very good fit in our solution which we deployed in Japan, HP Japan. So what we did was we took that solution which we did in HP Japan, brought it to India, customized it for the Indian requirement, as well as made the language English because it was all Japanese. And there you have a robust platform for doing e-procurement as was specified in the tender requirements set by the government.
The government went in for a managed services model as it saw some substantial benefits with its technology partner HP. But one major benefit was
the model is, the government doesn't pay for government has not paid for the system. Government has not paid anything to HP. Of course, the government has set up a lot of infrastructure and the supporting things, while HP is also implementing. The government also is equally enthusiastic in rolling in conducting workshops, in doing all of that, and promoting all of that. They are all doing it. Okay, so while those kinds of expenses are there, but on the system, government has not spent. The payment is actually done by the contractors who bid on the system, the suppliers and the contractors who bid on the system. So they make the payment, and they need to make the payment only when they are bidding. Okay, so every tender for which they respond, there is a small processing fee, and that processing fee is in fact shared between the government and HP.
The implementation was never easy to start with, and it was a daunting task to work around the specific implementation challenges that both the government and HP faced.
We began with Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. It's a part of the Department of Education. We had a number of challenges in that department with regard to training. They were not exposed to this kind of scenario wherein everything was on electronic mode. Again, using the PKI, the public key infrastructure, through a digital signature certificate was something they were doing it for the first time. So each time they had to upload a document, each time they had to authenticate a document, they had to use the public key infrastructure. So all these things, they were literally some sort of a cultural shock. They were not even aware of a concept called DSC or a public key infrastructure. So educating them on day one was definitely, maybe we visualized that 5 days of training was more than enough for them, whereas ultimately it took us about 3 to 4 weeks of training.
There were a lot of challenges. One is the change. So our people, the engineers, it was a new system. And secondly, it was more transparent. And our engineers, as such, who were recruited 20 years back, 15 years back, they're all engineers in AWS now. And they were not techno-savvy. So there were a lot of challenges. One was the training. And HP, they gave very good training to all of our engineers. And second one was the mindset. Because they thought they will lose all the powers which they had earlier. Another point was there was some re-engineering in the procedure. So whatever procedure was obsolete, we removed them. And because of the flow, we could make out a lot of things which should change for the better.
We did get some inputs from the user department, which is very essential, We need to satisfy them in every possible way. They wanted some reports, MIS reports to be done in a particular fashion. If it's available in this particular fashion, then, decision making becomes easier. Getting information becomes easier. We did a lot of fine-tuning on the MIS reports also, which is uniformly applicable for all the departments on the basis of the feedback that we got. In fact, these feedback, play a very important role in ensuring that the platform meets everyone's aspirations, the highest of aspirations and expectations, and we build on it.